Good evening. Welcome to Yin and Yang. This is my for everybody that sees me on here quite a bit on this thing. It's usually in sports, not on this night. This night, I am not the pundit's pundit. I am Yin and Yang. I am basically straight man for I'm basically straight man for TJ Sanson. Be able to get we do different things than sports. We don't even talk sports. We do a lot of film stuff, psychology, talk politics, all those type of deals, and it comes from the fact of having a different point of view. I'm more right of center, she's left of center, and that's what Yin and Yang is about. So this is TJ Sanson. Welcome, TJ.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And thank you for that lovely introduction.
No problem, no problem. And what we had in before we get onto the show, we had ourselves a bit of an interesting weekend with the movie, didn't we?
Sure did. It was wonderful. Shooting a proof of concept video for a feature film, which I have written. It's called Awakening, and it's a ghost story, a little bit of a murder, thriller, mystery kind of thing. And we shot some of these scenes with Jake and myself in my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And a few other scenes that were out in this beautiful house out in Lilburn, Georgia. It is called the Wynn Russell House. It's a 190-year-old house, and it really is haunted, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And we were out there with a very small film crew, just a cameraman, myself, and another actor, and we did some scenes out in front of it. We didn't go in the house to shoot anyway. We went in for other reasons, grabbing water bottles out of the fridge and all.
Sure,
and
sure.
A modernized house because there's other events that take place there, but no spooky activity. It was just very uneventful. Several hours. We got the scenes done. Bada bing, bada boom, and then we were out of there. So expect a proof of concept in the next few weeks. We have another day of shooting on Monday, the October the 10th, which is this coming Monday. And when we get all those wrapped up, and then it's just me going into the computer and starting to tinker around with editing software.
Absolutely. So you're doing it all basically.
Most of it. Yeah, pretty much.
One of my favorite parts was doing the scene with the therapist. I kind of enjoyed that a little bit because I've been kind of rusty with I've had about 9 teachers. So I used to be able to go into classes all the time. It's been a few years, so I had some rust. So I remembered, but you still get rust. It's kind of like the gym. There's no difference.
Well, exactly. And, the beauty of the multiple takes is you pick the best one.
Yeah.
I mean, we did 3 or 4 takes with you and me reading, and it was all your scenes because it was all you that day, and we're going to shoot my scenes another day. And so the beauty of editing is you take the best of all of the scenes and kind of splice them together that that work well. And so I think you came through all right. We had to get kind of get the gears, kind of like riding a bicycle. I don't think you really forget this stuff.
Right.
I mean, you might be a little rusty in the beginning, but it starts coming back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like, and we had, one of the things is, one of the good things that happens is when you have equipment behind you, when you got good lighting, you have good, and then there's always things that you have to learn about the technical stuff. It's like, we don't exactly have a huge crew right now. One day we will. But I mean, right now, and I'll tell you in truth, we think about this with the Clerks with Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith, he didn't have much. He didn't have much as far as crew, cast. He had everybody doing everything. It's a very guerrilla movie. That's going to be this. But in some truth, this movie might be better in a way as just a guerrilla thing and stuff like that, because the shots are going to be taken seriously. It's not going to be, there's not millions of dollars behind it, so things are taken seriously.
Right. And because of that, it's a small crew, and we're not going to have to, I've been on sets of professionally, like Hollywood type movies, that have filmed here in Atlanta, and I've been, background mostly, and I've seen how these things run. I mean, it takes them all day just to do, 2, 3 scenes. And we're for this, what we're doing, we could do 2 or 3 scenes. Well, when I say 2 or 3 scenes, I mean 2 or 3 versions of the one scene. Okay. Yeah. I took place in the church. There was a movie I was in, it was a part of the church thing. it took all day just to film them coming up to the altar and doing their wedding scene, because there was extras around, and there was a camera up way up here, and then there was camera coming forward and a camera back here, and lights every, I mean, 50 people wandering around, and of course a crew of extras, 200 extras. So my movies are not going to take quite that elaborate just to do like one scene. We got one scene done in just under 3 hours, out here at the house. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's just the nature of the beast,
Yeah.
and when you've got that kind of budget and that many extras and that many cameras, and there was a camera up here kind of going down and looking down at everybody from that angle, and then the camera way up here at the front, and I mean, there's you got to consider the logistics.
Yeah. And one of my things, like I was saying, the reason I brought up Clerks with that situation was because, in comparison with something like this, the reason I brought that up is because I can't watch Clerks 2 or 3 or a lot of the other stuff. I can't watch a Kevin Smith movie with big budgets. I can't, because I
I've
think
seen Dogma, and it loses something. I think it loses something.
Yeah.
It's a big budget movie that tries to look small budget.
Yeah.
And you loses something in the translation. The message doesn't get across. The rawness and just the pureness of the story itself gets lost in all the,
Well, and me myself, I have a belief that if you're small budget, you have small budget. You not saying that. I mean, any of us would want to have $100 million to do it. You know what I'm saying? Any of us would want to, but one of the things you do is when you're on a budget that doesn't, when you're on a movie that doesn't have it, then you have to be careful with everything. You're more careful. The shots mean more. Things mean more. Lights mean more. Things mean more when you don't. It's like I think about when I worked for Starbucks for a few weeks. Worked at Starbucks for a few weeks. It didn't go too well.
No, I couldn't stand it either. I've done it.
Yeah, but it's like I couldn't. I was at Starbucks for a few weeks, and I remember spilling a thing of syrup, and all they did was kind of roll their eyes, get annoyed, and go order a box of syrup. You know what I mean? I mean, they have billions and billions of dollars behind them. I worked at Bobby G's, the place I go to for my football on Sundays. I worked there for a few weeks, and if you dropped a sprig of cheese on that guy, he would give you hell. And God bless you if you drop beer.
Right.
And I mean, because how expensive that is. And it's like, that's a small business, and that's all his money.
Sure.
That he has to get to that. And it's like, that's the same with it. Mind you, we want to have 100 million. Yep. But that comes later. But the one thing you want to do with 100 million is make sure that you still act like that small time where your shots mean something.
You economize is what you're saying, economize. And I agree with you there. I don't think that just because you have that, stacks and stacks of money over here that you necessarily have to blow it. Okay.
Yeah.
And, I mean, big budget movies can still be excellent. Okay. I mean, as the Oscars, the last, 4 or 5 years have shown that, the very, very good big budget movies can still, deliver a punch, and economize on shots, actors, and everything. These, for example, these big superhero movies that are out, all the rage right now, and the Game of Thrones type of things. And it's all actors just standing in front of green screens. And then they drop in these, exotic backgrounds that aren't actually physically there. And I'm going, so much of it just compromises story.
Yeah.
It's just not there. It's just kind of meh. It's all visual dazzling, effects, but there's no story. And well, between the two, I'd rather have a story.
Well, absolutely. And that's my thing. And that is my thing. And here's the thing. If you economize with the story and your shots and everything, you have more money to market the movie.
Yeah. You got more for the aftermath, as they say.
Yep, absolutely.
Promotional.
Completely. And anyway, so we're going to go on to the first topic tonight. this is down your alley more than it is mine. Neurodiversity. Now, I've been seeing you brought this up on a text with me one day, and you wanted to talk about this as based off yourself. I wanted you to be able to go to the audience. Some of them have probably heard more than others, probably especially the internet right now. But there's a lot of people in this world that don't know what neurodiversity is. Do an explanation.
Neurodiversity is anyone whose thought processes, thinking, and a way of interpreting might be a little bit outside the average or the majority of people who of an average person. And I don't mean someone whose thought processes are twisted in a very evil and sadistic and masochistic kind of way. Someone who enjoys the pain of others. For example, I'm watching Dahmer. Okay, that's not what is meant by neurodiversity. He was not neurodiverse. Okay, he had sick, twisted fantasies and fetishes. Okay, brought on by any number of factors. Neurodiversity is thought processing, a way of. I'll for example, autism or the autism spectrum, and I know it's a kind of a buzzword right now, and I think because finally, I think over the years, especially with the advancement in computers and technology, certain people that excel in those fields have been, and just from way back, termed nerd, geek, techno geek, social pariah, not cool, whatever. It has been stereotyped in media, TV, movies, film, whatever. It's always been there. And there's on the one hand, you have very, very, very extreme individuals like the movie Rain Man, who he could count the little flowers and patterns on your shirt. From all he had to do is look at it, and he couldn't tie his shoelaces, and he needed help going to the bathroom. Okay, those tasks known as executive functioning, brushing your teeth, brushing your hair, putting your shoes on, getting dressed, looking around your environment, straightening up, even going beyond that. Those things are known as executive functioning. It is what we as a society place on what is acceptable for us to get along in the world. Okay.
Yeah.
And such individuals tend to have absolutely no comprehension or even any awareness of such things, or even care, when it comes down to it. I mean, that's kind of a universal understood, but they're very, 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 very astute in other areas. Math. Okay. Albert Einstein. Now, he is regarded as a genius.
Yeah.
But stories about him say that, there were times he got so involved in his math and his equations and his processes that he wouldn't even eat for days. Now, that is typical for someone on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Okay, that behavior. Now, whether he was or not, we're not going to know because he's no longer with us. But that sort of behavior is a typical, is a broadly understood aspect of being, quote, on the spectrum, as they say. And then there are those who are not quite that extreme. Maybe we're down here on the lower end or the shallow end of the spectrum or the pool. And it's just too, it's too involved, to put in, 25 words or less. There's people who are just kind of like in their own worlds, that are more like daydreaming, but the stuff they come up with is so fantastical that and out there, and it doesn't relate to anything that anybody would regard as practical. All right, that's a form of neurodiversity.
Sure. And what I think, one of the things about it is I feel in a certain way, I think you're more than I am, like on a certain boat. But I feel like I have a certain neurodiversity to myself. You've known me long enough. And I feel like because I, in certain ways, like I've gotten myself into the regular world, like, sports, just like the business world. I can speak with the everyday people, that kind of deal. But in another case, I can also with I can also go into the artistic world just a little bit, like with art. Not that I can draw, but acting. I can be able to speak elsewhere. My brain works a little differently in the fact that I can just be able to figure out a way of writing. Like I can just wake up one morning, be able to just start writing. Just maybe that's an example, maybe it's not, but it's like it just comes out. I know, darn. I always say to myself, I'm ADHD undiagnosed, and I don't want. See, my thing is, I don't want the medicine because my brain moves very fast, but I feel like I'd become a zombie if I took it.
Well, you don't know until you do, and it's one of those bits where even if you felt that way and you didn't like it or it didn't work for you, in a positive way or in a way that kind of, made your life a little bit more effective or easier or whatever, if your ADD does not interfere with your goals and your living,
Mm-mm.
then I'd say, let it be.
Yeah.
It may be difficult. All right. Now I speak this from an autistic standpoint, which is kind of almost the diametric opposite of ADD, though some of the characteristics are kind of the same. It's difficult for other people to keep up with you. Okay.
Yes.
Because me, I'm like, when I get overwhelmed, I'm at shutdown. I have to very, be very methodical about how I go about my world and my duties and my life. Otherwise, I get overwhelmed, stressed, and that's what comes up. Eventually, it prompts something what's known as an autistic meltdown, which is a sense of absolute, just almost infantile rage, which is not the same thing as a tantrum when you let a 2-year-old and their mommy's dragging them around all over creation and all of a sudden they're like, ah!
Right.
But they're being overwhelmed at that moment and they just, gotta say, whoa, slow down, and it's the same with an autistic person. This is so much that you can take in a specific given period of time. And some of us are a little bit, the word is slow on the uptake. That's not exactly true. It doesn't mean I don't get something, okay, or understand it. Processing and then acting upon it or reacting, response time may be not the same in terms of speed and immediacy as someone who is neurotypical, as they call it.
Yeah, but that's the thing I always try to say. You've known me a good while, but I always say this, and you can just get it from this thing. I've had friends tell me this too, and I'll admit it, definitely. I'm a lot. I am a lot. I can be a lot to keep up with. The way my thing goes, the way that it's like when I'm playing with and I'll tell you this goes all over. It doesn't keep me from living it. Like you were talking about, it doesn't keep me from living at all. I can go out through life. I can go pay bills. I can be able to do all that. But I am a lot like with the stuff that I'm trying to build the life with, like films and with everything. That's where like I'm gonna be directing films someday. You know what I'm saying? With what we're doing with this, I can direct or I can get somebody else, but I'll be writing it. Yours is more, your way is more boom, 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 boom. I'm gonna get bullet points. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Bullet points. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this at 11. We're gonna get this.
Yes.
I am very much. I will do bullet points, but I am very much. If something looks like my head's like, something. Like I was talking about when we were on set one of those days, like, that area over there would look pretty good. And then, of course, it didn't happen, but you get my point. That's where my mind goes a lot. It's like, sometimes it works. A lot of times it works. Sometimes it doesn't. But it's just like, I see it. And it's like, I see, like, I'll just wake up and I will be like, I got to write this. And I will get to that thing. It says, I'm in the moment quite a bit. I'm a lot, but it works for me.
Yes, but let me say this, okay? Being in the moment is great when you have these spontaneous bursts of inspiration, let's call it that. But there are people that may take you literally, okay? But I know this about you. Sometimes you forget stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You forget stuff you said a week ago.
Yeah.
2 weeks, but I remember it. Okay, and my brain thinks you mean what you say.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of like, well, I kind of had this idea, but that
Well,
not everybody can and is willing, okay, to entertain that, all right, or tolerate it. And I'm one that's called you out on some of this stuff.
and I want you to, because it's like that. I will call that a flaw. It's the fact that I make one mistake, I don't write it down. So that I will. It's like, and it's like there are things like that. But one thing that came back from is we were gonna do. We talked years ago about working together. He came back.
It came back, but boy, under the circumstances under which it came back,
Yeah.
were not great.
Right. Yeah. But it's
Okay,
like,
they
yeah.
were very. Now for you, you were just shrugging it off, but for me, it had a very negative impact. Okay, that's another thing that's a spectrum thing. Okay, certain negative impact. Don't shrug, but certain things that can have a trigger for a negative reaction that either can be a recollection of something that happened before, which created a bad situation, and you're just kind of flashbacking on that.
Mm-hmm.
But granted, the smart thing in your case, you kind of came to the rescue, so to speak, and you brought forth, the suggestion of doing some things, and lo and behold, as it turned out to be a good thing. But we want to try to avoid those negative situations.
Oh,
Okay.
Darren. Well, the thing is, I always try to warn. I talk about someone like you or other friends or
Mm.
whatever. I always try to warn. It's like when I say something, I try to get it on this. I'm always looking out for people. You know what I'm saying? My friends, very close
Well,
friends,
you
whatever.
didn't that time.
No, no, but you get. I know what you're talking about, but I'm talking about the. I'm talking about my personality. What I wasn't talking about necessarily the movie, but personality. The personality, my personality. I try to make the thing and look out and let them know what this is, what I am, and I'm also respecting what they are, and I want them to know what this is because I don't ever want anybody to think I'm ever going to try to ever hurt them. Based off of, what I mean? It's like just based off of thing. I'm not trying to make promises and not keep them. I keep them most of the time. Sometimes I have to be reminded. But the thing, I want them to know that I'm always out looking out for somebody.
But that sounds good, and almost. But here's my thing, though: when behavior continues, okay, and there's such things like there's certain character traits that people are just going to have, but neurodiverse or not, it has nothing to do with it. But if something happens and somebody is impacted negatively by it, or they've had the bad experience, or they confess to you or say, hey, listen, after what happened, I'm having feelings about this and this and that. We need to talk about it, and going forward, let's try to do things differently.
Yeah.
Okay. Or at
Yeah.
least try to work at it. Okay. I'm not saying you're going to be successful necessarily, but don't just write it off as something that doesn't matter to you.
Right. No, and I get that. I get that, and that's all. I mean, that's the thing about talk. It's like I just want this understood about that thing. And guess what? The one thing though, as far as our professional deal with the movie, we are a great combination of something because sometimes bullet points work amazingly. Sometimes off the beaten path works amazingly, and sometimes if you mix them together, it's awesome.
You have
But
to be open to both because
yes,
we're in
yep,
a creative field and not all one and not all the other. Sometimes it's a marriage of styles.
yep,
Okay. Because depending on who you're working with and the circumstances under which you're with, sometimes you got to be improvisational. Sometimes you got to think on your feet
yeah,
because the best laid plans of mice and men. And, even as a neurodiverse individual, and I grit my teeth when my plans don't go the way I want them to, but
sure,
I have had to just sit back and go, fuck, all right, it's not what I wanted, but you do have to find a way to compromise. It's not the easiest thing in the world
yeah,
for those of us who are on the spectrum and neurodiverse, but we
yeah,
just kind of just have to go, all right. But in also explain, be prepared to talk about why you make the choice you do.
right,
I'll give you an example on the film shoot. And this is something that had been talked about before, and I won't mention the actor's name who was with us on that shoot that day. He had a suggestion, and I was saying, we were going on the script, and he says, "Hey, I would like to, if you don't mind, I want to put some improvisation into this and kind of go off and like I'll say, knock yourself out. Let's just do the take. He said, you know, well, we were practicing, rehearsing, running lines. He did a little bit of stuff, and it made me react, and I laughed, and it was just a natural laugh because the way he did it was just, it just struck the nerve there. And he said, look, I want to play with this idea. I know it's not in your script exactly like this, but I'd like to, explore this. And I said, knock yourself out, and we did, and it came off very, like it did initially. It was hilarious.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm just saying that don't just throw the gauntlet down. When you
Yeah.
got people who have done something, they've written something that is performed a certain way and is drawn out a certain way, they're not always on the improvisational skill level that somebody else might be. Just say, hey, try something in the rehearsal process, but that's just to do with acting.
Yeah.
Neurodiversity in the workplace is another very tricky area because a lot of jobs just aren't suitable for someone on the spectrum, especially jobs that require one to be sociable all the time, like your job, customer service.
Yeah.
I've done customer service jobs, and I got to tell you something, at the end of my rope, after a certain amount of time, I can't take it anymore. And then you start getting snippy, with people who don't really deserve to be snipped at. But at some point, it's just your patience. It's just having to go over shit, diatribes over and over and over again, and the sales points. And I'm not a salesperson, and that's true for many of us who are on the spectrum.
Right.
We'd rather be in kind of a workspace, either a computer or some other thing that requires our attention to be focused on a certain thing for extended periods of time without interruptions.
Sure.
Or minimal interruptions. Okay. I can't take it when the phone's ringing off the hook. I can't take people coming in and out of the office or the workspace and while I'm trying to focus and concentrate. It's distractions. But that's part of neurodiversity, that I can get into a workplace, and others can do this. And we do what we do, and we are just, our mind is just focused on one little thing, but we do it very, very well.
Oh yeah. Well, here's my thing. I hate the phone, but it ain't because I can't focus through anything. I hate the phone because people are stupid on it. I mean, people are like, it's like blah blah blah. This is blah 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 place. This is Jake. May I help you? Is this that blah blah blah? Which you just said that. You people don't listen, and then
Sure.
and it's like those are the things that drive me nuts with phones. I can definitely focus on it. I don't mind the ring. I just know something stupid's coming on the other end, and it's just tough.
Well, that's just a pet peeve of yours, and
Because I like people in front of me. Because I like people in front of me, I can be able to focus on them.
I
It's like,
can't multitask worth a damn, and I'm thankfully, I thank the blessed stars in Knockwood and Providence that my current job that I do have doesn't have that.
oh, I love my job. Absolutely love it. It's like I love mine. It's like, but my main thing is that I've had this boss the last couple of places. Just had this boss the last couple of places, and she keeps the thing so chill. She keeps it so chill, and it's
A
like
good
she's good at it.
manager is also very integral to how a business environment, work environment is.
Yes,
Really good manager, keeps things in check, and also allows their workers to do their best
their way.
without having to be over their shoulder and just constantly reminding them or doing the blah, 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 throwing shit at you. And I can't stand that either. I work
Well,
better.
it allows it their way. I'm just saying they allow them to do it their way, and it's like that's the best managers you can get. Yeah.
Other than you start looking for another job, regardless of what your status is, regardless of you're neurodivergent or not,
Yeah.
But another thing about neurodivergency, and I'll say this, we are, from those of us who are even on the shallow end to those, especially those on the extreme end, we thrive on a consistency and predictability of your environment and your world. I mean, I don't care for change. I'm okay to adapt it as long as there's enough time and enough, I guess what they call the learning curve, to get into the groove. I'm not the kind that can just switch on a dime. I don't like that, having to do that every day. It's exhausting to me. And ultimately it's just like, whoa, shut down. And then there's some people who are really neurodivergent, really on the spectrum. In fact, for example, there's some children, especially, they notice this in autistic children who, for example, all they got to do is rearrange furniture in the living room, and the child will come in and just have a complete and total explosive meltdown. They'll be on the floor screaming, kicking, yelling, or going, ah! And the only thing that's different is maybe there's a different couch.
Yeah.
I've read about stories like this. I read about them. I mean, there are some who are just like that. I mean, they just cannot stand the change. It's different. It's not what they know. Their brain is not wired to it's not what they know. Okay. Yeah. And for others, it's not quite as bad, but it makes them uncomfortable, nervous, maybe anxious.
Yeah.
And on that end, in me, I just get, it's like, now something else I got to deal with, Again, it depends on how severe it is. It depends on that's why it's called a spectrum, of autism anyway. And that is most well-known neurodivergency. ADD is another form of neurodivergency. And anyway,
well, one of my things, I say this with my brain, where my brain works. This is a funny part. This is so funny. It's like I have a competitive side to me. As I said, I've done sports in my life. I've been different things. Here's what's funny. I've learned this about myself in the last couple of years, truly. I love winning things. I love to win, mind you. So what human being doesn't want to win? I mean, we'd love to win Oscars or something, right?
Well, yeah, there's a high. I mean, it's a rush. It's an endorphin rush. Yeah.
I would love that. But do you know what I have a weird obsession. I am more obsessed with building the winner than winning. Mind you, I want it toward it. Like whatever it is, whether I'm a coach, remember I've been a coach of a basketball team before. Whether it's anything like being on a set, being on that thing, just getting on that deal and coming up with ideas and doing everything. The high to me of I would be so bored if I was natural at anything. If I was just a natural basketball player, natural actor, natural this, I'd be so bored. My brain is absolutely, whether I'm playing with buddies with my friends, like the little fancy whatever, you know what I mean? Whether I'm playing with them, it's just a simple game that means nothing. Or I am helping build a movie. Or I'm helping coach a team. I'm obsessed with the building. Obsessed with it. And then if I lose because of the screw up next week, okay, I'll get better on the next one. I love the idea, where am I making a mistake at, and go rebuild it and everything. That's where my brain always is. And then when it gets down to the end of the year, I finally feel like I've built something well. Then okay, take back. Okay, that's really good. But if my brain doesn't feel like I've built it enough, whether it's good or not, it can screw itself back up again. It's probably why I was terrible in tests in school. Terrible. Because I would change 4 answers that I felt like, and they'd all been right. I've always been that way. I'm just somebody who's obsessed with building something, and it's like, I'm not saying I want to be wrong. I just end up being wrong.
That's also part of ADD. It's obsessive compulsive. That's what that is, dear. Yeah. It's a form of obsessive compulsive disorder. I wouldn't call it disorder per se, but it's obsessive compulsion.
Yeah.
But here's we don't have to ask that right now. That's something to address maybe later in more of a private session. But in terms of movies, let's bring up movies, because that's another one of our topics, okay? Since we've been talking about it.
Well, yeah.
Tips for getting into the movie industry.
Everybody
has a different story.
Yes.
Okay. You have a story. I have a story. Jodie Foster has her story. Ron Howard has his story. Jason Momoa has his story. Chris Pratt has his story. Meryl Streep has her story. Everybody has a story. So in terms of tips for getting in the movie industry, what has worked for you? What has worked for you? What has not worked for you? Let's talk about that.
Well, what worked for me, when I originally got through, remember, I don't come from a movie family. I don't come from an entertainment family at all.
Me neither.
No. What didn't work for me originally was I was somebody who I went the grind with the auditions, did everything like that. I didn't understand. Here was what my issue was as an actor the first time that made me fail. You just have the thought process that you're going into a character, remember the lines, and then kind of try to see how you can make that work. Is there's got to be, as the Sanford Meisner says, there's got to be a reality and imaginary circumstances. You got to get to that moment, which means the reality imaginary circumstances means that you've had to be able to be able to live a life, whether you've had stress, whether you've had happiness, sadness, whether you felt that divorce, whether you've been that thing, whether you felt loneliness. You've had, for you to feel to do reality and imaginary circumstances, enunciate. But it's like to be able to do that means you need to have lived. I hadn't, the first time around when I failed, I hadn't lived enough. And
Well,
that was my first step.
well, I completely agree with you on that. And let me tell you, when I was in high school and I first kind of tiptoed my way into it, by reading, getting into the drama classes in school. I never actually auditioned for a play though. It's something I always wanted to do. But what held me back was the fact that I was such an introvert in those days. And looking at the kids who were in the drama clubs and the actors were so outgoing and boisterous and physically present, okay? And and they would just, you walk into a room and you could tell an actor,
Yeah.
okay? This is how they entered a room. And this was just, going back to, high school, teenagers. And also, I just didn't have, I wasn't, I liked the part of the drama that allowed you to get into a character's head, okay? Rather than being the, I'm gonna go, woo, that wasn't me. And I kind of let it go for a while, a long time. Through college, I studied art and design, got out, got some work, and started auditioning again, which was out of a fluke, just because I found myself in between jobs, okay, and I was actually kind of bored. And flipping through what used to we used to have a newspaper here in town. I think it's still here. It's just kind of called Creative Loafing, and they used to have audition notices, theater,
Yeah.
gigs, film, TV, not much film and TV in those days, mostly theater. And I found a theater piece I was really interested in, and it was a children's show. It was kids theater for the Arthur legend, King Arthur, the Sword and the Stone, that story.
Yep. Yep.
And I love that story and legend. I love Morgan Le Fay. That was the role I went to audition for. And out of the clear blue sky, I got a call back. I was not expecting. I was a room full of kids and teenagers, and I was already well into adulthood by then. So I felt a little bit awkward, but at the same time, kind of felt I had an edge on those kids. But here's my point about that is it had been like 6-7 years since I had actually done any theater or any classes or anything but during that time I'd lived. I got an experience. I had full-time jobs. I had my own apartment. I used to go to clubs. I had lived in Florida and had come back to Atlanta. And all during those years is when I lived and gained life experience and insight. And then going back into the audition process in the theater world felt good. It felt right.
Yeah.
I started booking, not really booking for pay. I mean, it was just getting, local theater roles.
Sure.
That was my way into theater. Now the film industry is a whole nother ballgame. A couple of years in theater, and there was an incentive in Atlanta for the film industry. They were giving tax breaks and all that stuff. So I started talking to enough people who were headshot photographers, who had lists of theater acting coaches who did camera. And I thought, I'll just go interview with a few. And lo and behold, I started interviewing and getting on camera classes. And the difference between on the camera, like what we're doing right here and now with this, is a stillness. There's a camera focused on us. I'm not going all over there and talking. I'm not going over there. I'm not walking, 10 feet up and using a stage world for a for your lines, goals, your scene work. You have to be in a certain kind of stationary position for the most part.
Right.
So that takes a certain amount of training. And now some people get into the business because they know somebody, and that's it. And then maybe they have a certain look, that's like, my friend told me I should audition for this because he thinks I'd be good at it. They can't act worth a tin shit. All right.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They have a certain look. They have a certain appearance, which fits, but what really irks me as an actor and probably even going forward as a director is someone who doesn't have the slightest damn clue how to act. Okay.
Yeah. Because
no, you think the people on TV and all that, they make it look easy because they've been doing it forever and a day.
Yeah.
My acting coaches, all of them say it takes a minimum of 15 years to really be good at it.
Meisner said 20, and I get your point, but no, the biggest thing was, I can tell you what made me. I had 9 different teachers. I've had Crystal Carson for a couple seminars. Love her to death. Love her, and I'm wishing her well. She's fighting cancer right now. Wishing her well.
Totally.
And I've had that. I've had Nick Conti. I've had Michael Cole. I've had some of the Tom Tone, some of the very best, and nothing absorbed until one thing. I went almost homeless, living in hotels, and had to push myself to get money every day. And then in the midst of it, being an Uber driver, I met people from 60 different countries.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you have everybody's point of view. You have different voices. You have different views. You have different everything. One of my final Uber rides was, and I'm not kidding you, it was during the 2016 election. One of the final big things was a Trump supporter and a Hillary supporter sitting next to each other. And I am not kidding you. It started out grumble, and they end up loving each other.
Wow.
But here's the thing, though. They were outside. When you go on Twitter, you tell people, get the hell off Twitter. Go outside. It means people will get along. They will understand each other when they see each other.
This is okay, let me say this. I'll interject for a second about social media.
Yeah.
From experience, from some of the stuff that I have posted, opinion pieces on my page, that not only were taken completely out of context.
Sure.
These are people have gone out that not just questioning it and wanting to know my point of view, but just coming out with stuff that's like, I said, repeat, read the post. This is what I said. And do it again. And I have said in more than one occasion, I've had to say, look, comments are now disabled because these things are taken. I've said it in the threads that are this fucking long. Okay?
Yeah.
Way out of context. You don't even know what you're talking about. You don't even know what my opinion is and why I'm saying what I'm saying until you sit down and actually look at someone face to face and say, well, this is what I mean. And this is what I'm talking about. But online, you get anyone who just wants to throw their damn 2 cents in. I've had to delete and block people from Facebook because of this.
Yeah.
Look, just Even if you think you're joking or making light of it, it doesn't come off that way.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about just words that are typewritten, not intonations of speech, not, oh yeah, an expression, which I try to throw emojis in there to kind of give the feeling of, the impression of what the intent is. And even then, because when you're actually talking to someone and getting their opinion and real honest to God, if it's from up here in the gray matter and not just bleh,
Yeah.
you discover you actually have a lot more in common with those that you wouldn't think that you would. Okay. And also, oh God, the media is horrible, horrible. Okay. And
That's
a
that's
whole
media, and
nother
that includes,
topic.
guess what? That includes Fox News and CNN.
That
That
includes
includes,
all of them.
yep.
You don't know what people take the media, the newspaper takes snippets of conversation and put it out there rather than like what you and I are talking about, rather than listening to the whole person say everything that's on their mind, that what their thoughts are, and print it all as it is. They're just taking pieces of it.
Oh yeah.
You
What do you think the political ads are? Take pieces of something
know,
that was completely out of the context. Oh
bloody
yeah.
joke. I don't listen to them. I'm like,
Yep.
I don't believe a word of them, any of them.
Absolutely. And
Crap.
those are the things. And no, but what I could say, here's what I could say about the tips for getting into the acting business. And I will say it from my end as someone who never lived in the world, before it. Live first. These 75% gray hairs in my life, and I mean, and all that kind of stuff like that, that made me a better actor. Made me better. I lived, I understood, I experienced. First time around when I failed, I found out the hard way I was sheltered and didn't realize it. Then I can say this, dad passed away. And then I went through not to say that I wouldn't say by lots of crying or anything, but just I did not know how to live. And I did not know how to live. And anybody that ever worked with me before, and anybody ever sees it, whether it's 2 years down the road now or tomorrow, will know exactly what I mean. I did not know how to live. I am proud of where I'm at now. I've come a long way. I think I've become a better actor because I lived.
And I think you will, but just saying this much, the experiences that you have, the internal life that you have, but it's a matter of being able to take that and put it out there in terms of script and reading. There's still some work to be done there. I have to be
Yeah.
honest with you, Jake. You and I
There's
were
there's not. I want you to be honest. That's not the thing about it. I feel like it's gonna get better and better. I just know
there
it.
are times when I think you're trying a little too hard, at least on the film we just did. Now,
Sure.
again, that's a topic for another time. I don't want to take up our time talking about that per se,
No.
but you have improved. I mean, I didn't know what you were like before. I
No.
haven't seen
Oh,
your
I
work.
know what I was like before. It's like I
I
didn't
haven't
say it was
seen your work
terrible.
from 10 and more years ago. I don't know what you were like.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
when you did some of those early web series shows and things, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. You haven't seen me work either. Okay. So that's just, we've had all this time individually, independent of each other and our experiences, but now we're going to bring them together.
Yeah.
And which brings me to another topic here. Well,
Yes.
let's follow up on the getting into the movie industry. There's no one way. I've
Yeah.
seen different people, all of our wonderful acting coaches in town, Michael Cole, Rob Prolgo, Grant McGowan,
Yep.
Rob Mello, they'll
Yep.
say there is no set rule. There's a million different doors and avenues into the industry.
Yep.
Okay. You take advantage of what is working for you.
And
Okay.
something
You
you bring
try
up.
one way, and maybe you can try for years and go, this isn't working. I'm not getting anywhere. Then you go off and do something totally like off the wall, like me writing and producing our own content, you and I.
Yeah.
And I did that with a few other actors. I've written films and getting it out there. But the constant pushing, you have to constantly expose yourself. You have to constantly put your name out there and be aware and have a presence. That's harder to me. Again, going back to being neurodivergent, that is the harder thing for me than actually creating the product. Okay.
And yeah, and it's like, and I'm glad that you tell me about, because guess what? I don't think there will never be a time in my life I'm ever going to put myself where I'm going to say I'm going to be able to be Paul Newman or whatever. Never, ever, ever. Never going to get to that level.
Never what? Never who?
Be
What?
Paul Newman. Paul Newman.
Oh,
But I
well.
would say,
Oh, Paul. You don't have to be Paul.
no, I didn't say Paul Newman. I'm talking about the level of actor. That's
Honey,
great.
you don't know that because you can't. Because I will say this again. This is a thing that we as actors are guilty of doing. All of us, comparing ourselves to other actors.
Yeah.
I guarantee those actors compared themselves to someone else too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yet sitting here thinking these people are geniuses, and they're sitting there thinking, oh God, why can't I be like so-and-so? Well, because you're not so-and-so, you're you.
Well,
I'm me, you're you.
yeah.
You're going to bring to the table what you have. And that's the hardest thing in the world. I have had a long time learning how to accept it and work with it. Okay. Long time.
Well, stars, this is the thing about stars. There's a lot of stars that actually, they've said it on interviews. They wish they could be as good as those character actors that work all the time. Because the character actors will work all the time.
Well, anybody can be a character actor.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, anybody can be a character actor. No,
Yeah.
it doesn't take anything special. Okay. The leading man is a dream. Leading man and woman, that's Barbie and Ken. They're fabricated. Okay. Alan Alda, bless him.
Sure.
He became a leading man at a certain age in his life when he was, very handsome and young and lean and had pretty blue eyes and thick dark hair and, chiseled features and everything. He became a leading man. But he said in interviews, as a kid, as a teenager, as a young guy, I wanted to be the comic. I wanted to be the crazy guy, the wacko. And he said, I deliberately chose films that were characters that were disturbed, that were, and like, and there he was, beautiful and handsome, with the dark Italian hair and blue eyes and everything. And of course he got on MASH and
Alfonso D'Abruzzo, yeah, he's obviously Italian.
Jr. actually.
Yes.
And and he said, I wanted to be the comic, I wanted to be the character, and then I found myself in leading man role, romantic leads, and he was like, I had no idea. I had no idea what to do. But he put that comedy into his leading man. But it's not, I hate that distinction personally, because I think I think what they mean by leading man and woman is the two romantic leads that are always like finding each other. Like when Harry Met Sally. I mean, look, what was that? Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
And, comic, comedian. And then what was it? Meg Ryan. And that When Harry Met Sally, romantic comedy, two people and they're chance encounters and they meet on the roof, whatever the roof is, whatever. In the story, it was hilarious and wonderful and fun and beautiful and romantic and sweet. But Billy Crystal, I mean, why can't he turn around and be a serial killer? I mean, he could do that. I mean, Meg Ryan could turn into a heroin junkie, a prostitute, I mean, those tight and pretty blonde hair and nice features and blue eyes. I mean, give her, put a few years on her, she could gain 50 pounds and be a redneck housewife. I mean, the actors have been known to do things like that. Robert De Niro.
It has.
Ron's done it. Christian Bale does it all the time.
Yeah, and I think Christian Bale will die at 65 because he's put his heart in a lot of stress.
But
with the way he changes his body, yeah, there's no question in my mind.
That's a character actor and a devoted character actor. Okay.
Yeah. That's no question. It's like the thing is, you brought up Alan Alda. The biggest thing with him that I noticed, he's got one big thing about him every role, whether he is the bad guy, whether he's the leading guy, whether he is the criminal, slimy, criminal, slimy senator, anything. There's one thing about him. I don't know if it was from, like we talked about Wayne Rogers, we brought up the whole thing with Republican and everything like that. I don't know what it is. There's one thing with him. He doesn't go past annoyed too often. He's very matter of fact in honest and matter of fact. And when he gets angry, it matters. It means something. That's every role.
Yeah. He's not a fly off the handle kind of. He doesn't have his characters fly off the handle, as they say, too often.
No.
Okay. But when he does play anger, it's cold, it's chilling, and it's a little creepy. I've seen him play psychotic killers, and he'll get this look in his eye, and it'll scare the hell out of me. Okay,
Yeah.
he plays those characters, which is a mission accomplished, dude. If that's what you want to do, and but then he turns around and just has that big hug for you. I mean, he just that big smile and the twinkle in his eye, but he doesn't get the anger like crazy psychotic, fly out the handle kind of meltdown anger. you know
No.
that's
It's
not his
very,
style.
no, it's not, and that's the thing. There are a lot of actors that do that. That's the thing I like about him is just not often, and when he does, it matters.
Yeah, you pay attention.
Yeah,
You don't just go, oh, there he goes. You really
yeah,
pay attention. Yeah.
and that's why I like him. It's like when I watch Mesh and I like Mike Farrell's version, like BJ, better than I do Trapper, is because when the Mesh went to a turn into more serious and comedy once in a while, be to me Mike Farrell, his BJ Honeycutt is a to me he looks more of a doctor. He looks more of a caring guy. He just does. He really does. Trapper looks like a clown.
Trapper looked like someone who ought to be he looked like a football coach.
Yes.
Okay, he
Yes.
looked like he could
Very
be a
much so.
football coach. Just
Yeah.
that personality.
He's also 6'4", but yes.
Doctors, have that bedside manner, and yes, BJ Honeycutt came off as that much more than Trapper did.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
It was just his manner, and everything.
Very soft spoken. Very
Well,
soft
that's
spoken.
how that MASH show shifted from being really, very slapstick and very clownish to being a little bit more serious, as time went on. But yeah.
Yeah. No, BJ to me, it's like he knows. I like to watch Mike Farrell on this. You talk about enunciating. Mike Farrell's a master at the enunciation and
He sure
soft.
did. He could talk about his voice and his manner, very, very distinct, and he'd round his words, just like that.
But he's soft
He's
spoken,
yeah, he's soft, yeah.
soft spoken, and then you all know who else was in a different manner? David Ogden Stiers.
Oh, Charles, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there.
Bostonian,
Okay, there. Okay, there. Hot lips.
Bostonian, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it's like it's softer, and then you watch those because you know they're all stage actors.
Well, I mean, and that brings us down to our next topic here, which is the evolution of acting technique. And
Yep.
it's clear to me, going back into the history of time. Oh, by the way, since we're doing a 2 hour, can we take a 5 minute break? I
We'll
really
just
got to
talk.
use
We just talk. I can't go out without live. I can't go out. I can't kill it without live.
I got to step
And
out.
I understand. I understand. But no, you
Got
do your
to.
thing. You do your thing. I'll sit right here.
I just drank this whole big thing of
No
water.
problem. You sit right there. You do
Back
nature's
in
call.
1 minute.
You do right there. I cannot
1
shut
minute.
off, but go
Okay.
ahead. Yep. We're just live, so whatever. Everybody watching, just on this right here. We're just on that. Yep. We have hey, the world's gonna understand that we don't have ads yet, so the world's gonna understand when this happens a little bit,
Right.
So the evolution of acting technique, you bring this up. The one thing about it is the one thing I notice is that it doesn't feel like that there's a specific type anymore in truth, like because it's gonna go to our next when we talk about Lizzo in a little bit. Everything's such a performance. whether you're an idiot or not, or doing whatever or not. We bring up with the Lizzo deal in a little while. It's
Mhm.
like, how many actors are truly working on technique? And it just, we don't know how many, but I'm just saying it doesn't feel like it's important.
Well, to be quite frank, just from what I've seen, okay, now this is just my observations on the film front, okay? Now, television, I don't know, but in film, particularly independent film, it doesn't seem to me like there's a whole lot of technique being applied. They're just a certain individual that maybe has a certain type. I have never seen such bad acting on so many films, independent. Well, let me walk this back a minute. The crap I've seen on streaming, Netflix, Tubi, Pluto TV, some of those, especially the horror movies.
Not in European ones, though.
Well, American ones, definitely.
European ones, they're still amazing.
Well, that's because in Europe and in Britain, Great Britain, they take the craft of acting seriously.
Well, you know
All
me,
right.
I love Mads
Even a
Mikkelsen.
bad script can be actually tolerable. You know, a movie with a good actor, you know, doing their thing right. Okay. I've been screening some films for the Atlanta Film Festival, and I'm really enjoying what I'm watching so far. You know, I've given really good thumbs up to most of them.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have been, you know, submitted from outside the United States. Okay, there's been Canadian, there's been Arabian, there's been Iranian, there's been UK, whatever, just a hodgepodge of different, you know, different nationalities, and you can tell the actors that are cast in these have got some training, experience, and technique. It's I think there are those that are out there doing that. Okay, I mean, all we have to do is watch the TV show West Wing. Each and every one of those actors on there have come from a stage background and probably had to have degrees in theater.
Yep.
Or at least a good period number of years experience doing stage work, and it's obvious.
Oh yeah.
It's obvious.
I mean, Bradley Whitford, absolutely. Let's see, Richard Schiff, absolutely. Obviously, Martin Sheen.
Obviously, Martin Sheen. Maybe even Janelle Maloney.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely Allison Janney. Okay?
Absolutely.
Unquestionably Allison Janney.
And well, you would know that she's 6 foot tall, and she would just carry the stage.
Well, Kristen Chenoweth, she does theater. She's 4'11", an inch smaller than me. Yeah. Okay, she does theater too. Okay.
No, but she's got such a different voice. But I'm talking about just carrying the stage with that height. But that's what Allison Janney would do.
A presence. Okay, let's just give it a presence.
Yeah.
All those people. You can go. You can pick any number of TV shows, especially from the 80s and 90s, where it is obvious who's had real acting chops, training.
Yep.
Going back earlier than that, obviously, because all those people had to come from the theater. There wasn't such thing as just, you know, film acting classes. They did theater and then learned film technique from that. I mean, it was an offshoot of that. Yep. Michael Douglas, good grief. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Alan Arkin. Okay.
Adam Arkin.
Adam Arkin, sure. Michael Landon.
Yep.
One of your faves. These are going way back though. But these actors they came from a different environment, then evolved into television and film. All right. Kid actors. Let me point out something different about child actors. Those actors, kids who were cast in television, especially in the 50s and 60s, never did anything beyond that. Most of them.
Most of them. You know who did? And that's it. Dean Stockwell.
Jodie Foster.
Yep.
Ron Howard.
Yep.
But Dean Stockwell was in film. In the 40s and 50s, he was in film.
Yep.
Okay, not television. In fact, he left that. He got to be a certain age. It's my high school. I don't know what year it was. I read about this in his biography. He chucked acting after he got to be a certain age, and he actually did what you said earlier that you did. He got out and lived.
Yeah.
He went out and he worked.
Yep.
He worked. He did odd jobs. In those days, a 17-year-old could get a job.
Yeah. Construction probably.
Yeah, doing ditches. I don't know, whatever. Washing dishes. He got out and he worked in the real world.
Yep.
Made a huge difference than some of these kids who are brought up in a Hollywood upbringing, and the only thing around them are entertainment people, and that's all they know.
Yep.
It doesn't matter when you're washing dishes in a diner in a small town.
Yeah.
That's what Dean Stockwell did. And he did that for several years, and then he moved back to New York and he started doing stage work. And what a fucking difference it made for him.
Absolutely.
Till the end of his days.
Yep.
And we're talking about the early 60s. We're talking about 50 years ago.
Well, you see, Ron, that's the thing. Ron Howard, you brought up also. He was just a natural. From the get-go. Some are just like that, but he really was.
He was a natural. He had the right family around him to encourage it.
Plus, Rance Howard's his dad. Yeah.
That's what I mean by family.
Yeah.
The producer. And he understood. He got fascinated with being behind the camera.
Yep.
And he even, God bless.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
He got fascinated behind the scenes. And he started working with that little camera when he was a kid.
Yeah.
When he was doing Opie.
Oh, yeah.
Howard.
Oh, yeah, Ron. And
Opie
then
Taylor.
he was even more obsessed. He was even more obsessed when he was Cunningham, Richard Cunningham.
Well, that's when he really did jump behind the camera.
Yep.
On a few of those episodes.
Yep.
And then he directed Splash in 1982.
Yep. You get those.
But this is what I'm talking about. 20 years. Earlier in 1962, he was Opie.
Yeah.
And then by 1982, he directed Splash, and then went on from there.
We have to look about our age. You know what I'm saying? We have to look at our age based off of this thing. We're going to be looking at Opie as an over 60-year-old man.
Hey, man, he still works, so give him that.
Well, I'll tell you another one. Ed O'Neill. He's one of my favorites. It's because he said this himself, though, but he did this part. He got roles because he was over in, from Ohio. And he got on the stage from Ohio. He got roles because he got roles by himself significantly because he was the one straight man on a stage. He was a former football player, wanted to get on stage. He's no question testosterone, full of testosterone. He's a man's man. So they would hire him based off of that, and he basically faked it till he made it.
Right.
And see, this is what I say. I remember the show Fame.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the show Fame. Mm-hmm. And it is so funny to watch what the 80s decided to tell you what people were in a new, because okay, Leroy. There's Leroy, who is so obviously gay. And trying to say, I'm going to get those chicks with so not convincing whatsoever. He is so obviously gay. Gene Allen Ray. I believe it was Gene Allen Ray.
Gene Anthony Ray.
Yeah. Okay.
Gene Anthony Ray.
Yeah. And it was so Leroy. Yeah.
Leroy.
He was so gay. You could tell the gaydar goes off. Beep, 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 beep. It goes off. And it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter. But that was the 80s, and it was all that. And it's like, if you make Fame again, Leroy's gay. We know, and but they had that whole thing. Hell, and Bruno has the perfect gay name. You would have that, but it's like, that's the thing. That's the stage. And Ed O'Neill got on the stage because he was one of the rare straight guys. Where instead of putting a gay guy in that role.
Right. And well, he got on stage and he could play those men characters, you could see him playing like the Death of a Salesman type. Even as a younger man, he could have gotten away with it just because of his physique.
Yes.
Tom Bosley. He was
Yep.
in Fiorello. And
He was
the
in what?
Fiorello. It was a
Oh,
musical.
okay, yeah,
I
yeah.
was in a version of that in a local theater, and it was about the Fiorello LaGuardia, and it
Yeah,
was
LaGuardia. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
business in New York, and he was against Tammany Hall and the corruption and all that women's rights. He was from
Yeah.
Tom Bosley. As a young man, you should have seen him. I mean, after he was Cunningham, Richie's dad in Happy Days, and then he was in the Father Dowling Mysteries.
Yep.
But of course, he did TV show after TV show after TV show in the 60s, probably even in the 50s. But, 1958, 59, he was on stage and he was thin.
Yep.
He's dark hair, but it was him. It was Bosley.
Yep. And those were the things. It's like a lot of those actors probably, and these are straight actors. And I'm saying a lot of those actors, we're going to say that have that kind of a rugged look in a way, maybe a ruggedly handsome in a certain way. So a lot of those actors probably got a chance to work on stage and get better based off the fact that they were because before, if you're going to have a man's man role, especially people on stage, you're going to have gay people play men's men, and it's like, okay, maybe they can pull it off, maybe they can't. Ed O'Neill can.
Could do it.
Rock Hudson. No one knew Rock Hudson was gay because he did not. I mean, he had the look. He had the look of a straight man.
There were people who did. I mean, they understood, but it was,
Well, no, I'm just saying. You're right, but I'm saying he had a look. He had a good look.
Oh my God, did he ever?
Yeah. He had a good look. I mean, it's just what that thing, it's like, and it's like, and those were the, and I mean, people were like that and getting all that, but I'm saying, take one look at him on Giant. Take one look at him at Giant. He absolutely looks like
look at him in any movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Rock Hudson and Doris Day, they were the couple.
They were the couple, but he'd wear these silk pajamas, and then he's got a gay in him.
Era.
It is, but yes.
Era.
Well, yeah, no question.
But the man's man, I don't know. But technique, evolution of technique. Now, I wish that actors would take a different attitude about it. I think it would improve the quality of the craft altogether. Like me with art.
Yeah.
One thing to have a mouse, and a keyboard and do digital art and digital painting, but it's a whole nother ball game to hold an actual pencil in your hand and be a pencil and paper, physical. That's the real craft, is knowing how to draw, understanding shapes, understanding proportions. When the computer's doing it all for you, or at least most of it, I don't know. It's pedestrian. It's pedestrian to me.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
If you want to really, really paint, get yourself go to freaking Michael's and get yourself those little beginning painters kits and a little, a picture that they send with it that says, okay, this is what you want your finish to look like. See what you can do and start working at it. The physical act of painting itself.
Yep. Yep.
Because you can get 10 different people doing the same picture and they're going to look 10 different ways. All right. But when you're on a damn computer, you could get 10 different people doing all this, and it all looks like the same person did it.
What do you think that what do you think the actors don't take seriously? What do you think that the actors don't take seriously? Now.
Really getting into the heart and soul of a character, or really putting themselves in the character's shoes. Because I've even heard acting coaches say this. In theater, you become the character. But on film, the character becomes
you.
I think you can meet it halfway.
Yes.
All right? I think you can meet it halfway. All right? I just did a monologue workshop, and I pulled out a monologue I haven't used in ages, okay? About 4 or 5 years. And I found myself getting so back into it. And, I haven't acted on the stage since you saw me out that little thing that they did in Act 1, and that was the last thing I acted on stage. All right. But when you work in a monologue and you're going with objectives and you're going with certain actors will say, do the objective and verb, or they'll go in the moment, the goal, the And there's other things, and other forms of acting technique, but I don't see your typical film actor memorizing a monologue and being able to get on stage and imagine a person sitting there in a chair 100 feet from you, or imagining another person sitting across the room and being able to project at them. I don't see a film actor doing that. I just don't. I don't think they got
Right.
not
Also,
without having had theater before.
Also, another thing, there's a thing I say this about actors too. The reason I always say that acting takes so long, because remember, a lot of acting is conversation, like you and I are doing right now, having the idea of conversing, be able to do all that stuff. Here's the thing that a lot of people miss is the fact the reason it takes 15, 20 years to get really good is because all of us as humans, and this is all of us as humans, we see that red light and we're aiming for performance right off the spot. That means when you're getting into performance, then you are getting into that moment of, well, jazz hands. You're
Well,
you're getting into all that, and then you're not getting in that moment. You're not getting to that character. You're not getting anything. You're not digging deep. You're not getting all that, and that's one of the things that takes many years to do.
yes, it does, and I agree. And there, but the important thing is, I think, for every actor to get into theater classes, whether or not they ever want to ever get on a stage,
Right.
never. You don't have to, okay? But getting into the theater classes, those classes are structured like a stage. That instructor is going to make you get up there
Yeah.
in front of live people, not a camera,
Yep.
and have a scene with a partner, have a monologue. We just did that in the live arts monologue workshop. There's a girl in there who's new, brand new, all right, had never done this before, because live arts opens their workshops up to people who are part of the intensive like I am, and to the outside people. And I could tell she was a nervous wreck, okay, doing her monologue. I mean, she had a sense of it, but it still came off as a performance. But one of the exercises that one of the people there gave her to do, throw it aside, put your script down, okay, says you already know most of this, you understand this character and where you're coming from, I want you to improv this. And it was me and the other actor who was sitting there as our partners, although we didn't say anything. We kind of improv this little moment, and then she came in and started off. He said, forget the lines, just don't even worry about the lines, pay attention to what we are saying and doing, and go from there. And what a fucking difference it was.
Mm-hmm.
But she was supposed to come off very surprised and very startled and very just completely discombobulated by the situation in hand. Because when she had the line, she was just like you knew ahead of time what you were going to say.
Yep.
But when you had her in there doing the improvisation, she was just kind of like, "What?" And you know this, and blah, 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 blah. Like she really was fishing for words, but it made sense because that was the circumstances.
Yeah.
And we were all like, yes. And to the end, she was kind of like, kind of surprised at herself, but that's how you discover it. But I'm just saying that there's your difference.
And there's the whole thing. Here's the deal. There's another thing, and we're going to seg into another deal, another thing, the Lizzo situation. It's like I'm going to use this before I bring it up. There's a whole thing now that is killing acting. It's the fact of social media and the idea of likes, and you're trying to be stupid, and it kills acting. And you know what else it kills? Now I'm going to seg into this. It's killing performance in itself. Now let me explain the whole
brain
thing.
Cells too.
Yep. But here's the thing with the deal. Lizzo and it's killing the idea based off of likes, killing the idea of performance. And the reason being is the idea of knowing about Lizzo. She is a flute master.
Yes.
Flautist. She is one of the best
I saw that clip, by the way, with the crystal flute. Yeah.
Yep. She's phenomenal.
She took that and she knew exactly what to do with it. Okay. Yes. It wasn't like a toy that she was mocking or playing with. She understood how it worked.
Yep. And she knew it big. Big, huge. And guess what? And then you think about this. Justin Bieber knows about 500 different instruments.
And he doesn't play a single one of them, does
No,
he?
I don't know. See, but they show you give it to him and it's like instantaneous. They show the thing instantaneous. Doesn't play a dang thing.
Yep.
It's like baby, 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 baby. You know, it's like that kind of music. Lizzo has to twerk and be stupid and
No, she doesn't.
show off a
She doesn't.
disgusting looking ass.
No, she
And
doesn't.
she had, huh?
No, she doesn't. She
But,
chooses to.
yeah,
She chooses to appeal to that core audience
that's stupidity.
because she knows that's dollar signs.
Yeah,
All right, which is sad. I
yeah,
mean, it is. It's sad. I mean, if you are appealing to the lowest common denominator, you are always going to get probably a short. If she's smart, now the money is there. All right, it's coming at her. Okay, and the fame and the recognition. Now, what you do with it beyond that, because she ain't gonna be able to do that forever. Twerking is bad enough right now. In another 10 years, it's gonna be horrible for her. She's what, about 35,
yeah,
36?
yeah,
In 10 more years, that ain't gonna work.
yeah.
Okay, probably even less than that. Um, hopefully. Um, but there's gonna need to be something else. All right. If she does have genuine artistic skill as a musician, as a singer, as an instrumentalist, whatever, she's smart. All right. Now, this is
Yeah.
not, I have no idea what trajectory her career is going to take. I don't know. And quite frankly, I don't care.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say if she's smart and wants to continue and make something of that, she'll start segueing away from that shake your booty kind of act and get into something serious.
And you know something, and that's the thing. Because I put this on Facebook. A lot of people were really pissed at her playing the. See, what they were pissed at, she were playing that Madison's flute, and she was twerking with it. Which, see, the thing is, the only thing I said, there's only one thing that I said about it, is she has that kind of skill, and she knew what she was doing with it. She had that kind of skill, and yet she has to go be stupid. You know what
Sure.
I'm saying? She has
Yeah.
to go be stupid, and it gets people's attention to be stupid. And it's like, you want to know who I respect? Adele. Adele, regardless of when she was a little bit overweight or she got hers and she lost some, she stuck with hers. She
Yeah.
stuck with the art, singing, amazing singer. And these are the things I want. These are the things I want. By the way, it's in fact, I want to see in my lifetime. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. It may not, but I want to start seeing people get it for their skill, for their art. They get their money. It's like we've gotten to that point where it's stupid. Remember Idiocracy, the movie Idiocracy?
Of course I do. I've seen it.
Yeah, it's like that is what Idiocracy. That is what it is. It is like they literally predicted how much worse it was going to get.
Well, and this is what's sad is that it seems to be a characteristic of American culture, not British, European. Well, comedy, let's say that comedy as a genre has to be a little bit silly and stupid. It's satire.
Yeah.
You know, it does make fun. And British comedies are ridiculous, but they know it's ridiculous. It's intended to be ridiculous. It satirizes things.
Well, it satirizes life. Yeah.
In life, yeah. But the craft, the comedians, the actors who do that are very, very trained, well educated, well.
Yep.
They all
Oxford.
probably speak like 3 different languages. Okay, at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
you know what I'm saying. They're not good.
No. And
Unfortunately, duh is an
Yeah.
American trait.
yeah.
I'm sorry, but it is. I don't
Well,
know
there's nothing to be
why.
sorry about. There's nothing to be
I
sorry
don't
about.
know
It's true.
why. I don't know why. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it is.
yeah. And Lizzo got right in. And I'm
Of
just
course
saying
she did. She's
she
not
got
the
right
only
in.
one. I mean, who can blame her? I
Yeah.
mean, she knows who her audience is.
Yeah.
She knows.
Yeah.
All right. She's a large girl. Now
Yeah.
I have to say that I applaud her for being the person to go out there and to basically flip off, you know, the showbiz establishment that says you got to be, you know, lean and svelte and beautiful and whatever and a certain look. Body positivity does not necessarily mean that I'm going to embrace this unhealthy lifestyle, regardless of what, you think about it. People are what they are physically, and there's no reason why, because she is talented. She's proven it. But would anybody take her seriously as this flautist, as a talented musician, if she didn't already have this kind of fame from doing this other stuff?
Well, you know something though, there's a lot of fear. I mean, overweight black woman. You know, there's also another fear. She's also fear if she did make it as the flautist or a go say a classically trained musician. There's that fear, but there's from a black perspective that she'd get absolutely smacked by she'd get smacked around by saying, "Oh, she's just acting like a white girl," which is garbage and it's horrible, but it's true. That's what they would say to her.
Billie Holiday sang the roof off. Okay. She had a voice,
Yep.
pipes.
Yep.
She sang blues.
Yep.
She wasn't trashy. She didn't throw herself out there and treat her body like something to just, to take me, whatever. She had class and she was brought up hard, but
Yep.
she had a voice and opened it and wah!
Yeah.
Okay. She didn't act white, whatever the hell that means. I don't even know what that means. I mean, what does that mean?
You know, it saddens me when people say it, but it's like someone will say it to a kid. Like I mean, the whole point of one of Sean Connery's movies, I forget what the name was, Finding Forrester. Thank you for myself. But it's like Finding Forrester. The whole point of it was a black basketball player who actually he could write, and here's the Sean Connery character who is a writer, and they live in the same neighborhood. And he teaches him that he doesn't want to tell his friends he can actually write because he's afraid to be into that world and that thought process. And it's like acting white. And it's like I ask that question all the time. It's like I always feel like that they are, without a shadow of a doubt, that I mean, a whole culture, without a shadow of a doubt, insults itself by saying that, because you're saying you don't want your culture smart. You're saying you don't want your culture successful. You don't want your culture everything. You want it to be. You want to down yourself. I don't want to down anyone. I don't want to down anyone based off of melanin. I want everyone successful.
Well, and oddly enough, here we go. I refer back to an earlier era. Okay. Eartha Kitt.
Yeah.
She's mixed, very
Yep.
mixed race. She's
Yep.
an American Indian, black, Jewish, or some other. She's a hodgepodge of things. She was brought up poor, literally poor. Okay. She had dirt roads, poor. Okay.
Yeah.
She had an outhouse. They did the first time she ever saw a water closet, what they call a water closet or a bathroom inside a building. She said she didn't know what to make of it. She said that seemed a little unsanitary to me to have a bathroom inside a building.
Sure.
But unrealizing that it flushes away. It's not just laying in there, But Eartha Kitt, classy woman who came up, didn't want to be poor. She didn't want to be low. I mean, and she, I don't know what, somewhere along the line, there was a shift. Okay. There was a shift in thinking and attitude.
Yeah.
That to be a low life or act like a low life or act like trash deliberately, whether you are or not, okay, somehow became desirable, acceptable, cool.
And I will say this, and somebody
Ghetto.
who's not.
The word is ghetto. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eartha Kitt didn't want to be poor. These
Yeah.
people that really grew up like that did not want to be poor.
And you know
They
something,
wanted a piece of the pie. They wanted to earn on their own merits, regardless of what this was.
you know what hurt the acting thing? I will tell you this: as far as awesome black actors, Chadwick Boseman dying, because he could have been Poitier of this
He
era.
had the potential. He sure did, and that really is sad. And unfortunately, and he was taken from us way too soon. Okay.
Yep. I mean, he could have been Poitier because he could have been our Poitier. He really could have, because he was class.
Oh, most certainly.
He was class. There was no question about that. Then there's let's see. What's the name? Ali. No, I'm talking about the actor. Trying to think. I'm trying to think of the name. Let me get that for a second. Mahershala Ali, I believe. Mahershala Ali.
Don't know
He's
that one.
Mahershala Ali. No, he's awesome. Now it's like he might have a chance at doing like a Sidney Poitier now. He might have a Mahershala Ali, but he's the thing is though. But with all of those, with everything, it's like, what can you? I mean, what is the point? Now? Why are we in a level of culture? Is what I ask. Is what I ask. Why does it? Why do we have to? Because to me, all I want to see is success out of everybody.
Well, there's success and there's success. It depends on how you get it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Appealing to a puerile, and puerile being a Puerile, it means
I know
juvenile
I mean. I don't know how
or
to spell it. I know how to spell
immature
it.
mentality does not, to me, make you successful. It just
Yeah.
makes you a joke. Okay. It makes you an exploited laughing stock. Okay. It's not even someone you want to respect later on. Okay. Unless they make a choice to go to appeal to a different audience. Do you think anybody over the age of 25 even knows who cares who Lizzo is?
Unfortunately, too many. But
Anybody above Gen Z?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who even knows or cares?
Yeah.
I mean, but she knows her audience. All right. I mean, I don't like it, but I mean, it's the same thing. Oh, and speaking of, it's just segueing into we only got about 20.
I was bringing up Bill Maher.
Well, I was going to bring up the modeling industry. That was the next thing.
Yeah. Let's bring up Bill Maher, then modeling agency for the last one, because the reason I was bringing that up is because we were talking about stupid. You know what I'm saying? He brings up stupid all the time.
All the time. And then there's his article in Yahoo recently saying, "I've never won an Emmy because I tell the truth."
Yeah.
Now, what does that say
Yep.
about how the entertainment industry is run?
Yeah.
And not just entertainment, but it's all of commentary, news, all of that.
Well, see, all the media loved him when he was totally against all the right. He has said himself, "I haven't changed. I haven't changed. They changed. They changed." And it's like, I talked about this on Pundit. I've said about this getting awards and getting accolades based off of politics. And I brought that up in a different way, and it's brought that up. And Bill Maher, that happens. He's never won. I mean, because it's honesty. The thing is, we as ourselves, you don't have to go. We have to start saying CNN sucks as bad as Fox sucks. I mean, and you want to know who did do that? The person who just took over CNN, because he's changing the thing around right now. But the people, it can't be a billionaire that does that. They're not going to listen to that. It's got to be people have got to know that they all suck. So then we start changing the media and getting conversation. It's like Bill Maher is conversation. He gets a nice audience, but he's on HBO. It's a limited audience, even with HBO. It's like they won't let him on NBC, CBS, everything, where it could be 30 million, 20 million. They won't let him near it. And
well, yeah, I mean, there you go. It's like they're scared to death that there's of what exactly. I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't even know what they're scared of. What?
Well, you want to know what Bill says all the time? You've heard him on his shows. He can't get his Democrats on his shows. He'll get more right wingers getting on his shows.
I've seen a lot of left wingers on there.
No, but what I'm talking about is there'll be left wingers that won't go. He will say thank you for being on. Thank you for having the guts to come on here. I can't get there's a lot of our guys on here. He says this a lot, and it's like it's one of these things where there is a certain. I think the reason he gets a lot of right wingers on there is that he will give them a chance, even if he's arguing with them, to get a point out there, where Bill will talk to left wing people and tell them, okay, come on, you're being ridiculous.
Well, I just saw one of his earlier shows from earlier this year. A
Yeah.
guy named Andrew Sullivan and an author, a female, very trans-looking female, although she wasn't trans, but she was a
Yeah.
trans-looking female.
Yeah.
Katie something or other, I can't recall, but they were talking about the ridiculousness of cancel culture
Mm-hmm.
and trying to hush the conversations around LGBTQ. Even this gay writer, Andrew, British.
Andrew
Andrew
Sullivan. Yeah.
Sullivan. He says, I don't care if you're LGBTQ, XYZ, W1, it's 1, 2, 3. And he was mocking these labels. He said, our community has always been outspoken and wanting to, speak, but says, we've never been the ones to try to quiet anybody down. We've always been the out and proud kind of. He says, here we are trying to cancel, conversations. He says, it's ridiculous, and I went through that online. You know that.
Yeah.
I won't dredge
Yeah.
up that whole thing, but you were there. Same thing. You have to talk about conversation, dictating speech to people about how pronouns. He brought up that. He says, and I'm part of this community. I said, you don't tell me how to use my language and how to speech.
Yep.
And he said there was this militant, demanding certain, and I went there, remember, and what happened to me afterwards, and he was doing the episode. I mean, I can't recall what it is. All you have to do is just look up Mar on HBO Max or that one episode with Andrew Sullivan. And Katie, her name was Katie something, I can't recall, but it's easy enough to find.
Yeah.
And listen to what they were saying, and both of them were agreeing on this. But people don't want to hear them. Okay?
They want an echo chamber.
They want to go to, or the ones that attacked me weren't even part of their community. They attacked me online regarding that whole wokeness thing about using
pandering,
birthing people.
Yeah.
That I really hope that goes away. I really hope it does.
Well,
I'll tell you this. It's
going to start going away if the Republicans blow them away in the election.
Republicans, regardless, I mean, just in general, the use of it goes away.
Yeah.
And Mar was just like, really? And menstruating people, I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. And my thing is the whole idea of Mar, and I've always I always watch New Rules even after the fact. I love the idea that he wants conversation going, because it's what I do with my shows when you and I are doing now, and I do it in my shows on Sideline. I love conversation. I want conversation brought back because I want debates. I want debate clubs in schools. I don't want debate teams. And I mean, mind you, that doesn't mean I don't like debate teams. That's not saying anything whatsoever. I just think the debate team is limited. I want to start seeing debate classes in schools. I want to start seeing conversation going. And that's the thing. I want to see I want to see a classical education like I was talking about with that one school back in the hometown. I want to see that. I don't want to see pandering. I don't want to see any of this. I don't want to see people trying to be canceled because of common sense. Guess what? Men are men, women are women. It just is.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to tell me.
Yeah. It just is.
Someone who is clearly in a place where the percentage of those that identify as trans, okay, truly trans, is actually very small.
I know.
Okay, there's gay men, gay women, those that are certain types. Let's just put it within that community. There's, for women, there's butch and femme, and then the men, there's the top and the bottom. Okay,
Sure.
That's how I phrase it. All right.
Yep.
And that's just individual, psychological makeup, physicality, and personality all rolled into one. Okay, that's a combination of. Dude, what was that?
Just my thing going off. I'm on a tablet.
Oh, it fell. Okay, I wondered about that. But I'm saying but even out of those people, the ones that identify as trans is actually this much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And for them That's probably perfectly valid. It's perfectly valid. They're not, it's been something that has probably been within them for a long time, and it's just finally something that came to. I mean, if for somebing like Chaz Bona, for example, that was a
Hmm.
lifetime, half his life, 40 or so, he made this transition. And I think he's all the better for it. I've seen him act as a man in TV shows. I've seen him on, social media. It is very much who he is. And if you recall, Chaz was born chastity,
I know.
cute little blonde girl,
Yep.
and it just that didn't fit. And
Yep.
I mean, even as a kid, he says he remembers Dad and I. We played baseball together. We got along great. Me and him and his dad. And he said he said his dad didn't have any single problem with him being a tomboy girl and playing boy sports. He said not the slightest. Yeah.
Not one person. I'm telling you this right now. There isn't a person that, not in LA, in Los Angeles and those areas, they're gonna have problems. They didn't have those problems back then either. I mean, you got to remember, even in we have West Side Story, you had the Sharks and the Jets and the Puerto Ricans versus whites. I mean, it's been that way in New York I mean, New York with everything. No one cares about cultures in those areas. They're just brought to the world. But the biggest thing is a lot of the issue with media. Well, guess what? You said how small it is as far as the legit the trans people, legitimate. It's very small like that. A lot of it is there's a certain level of media that wants to see the nuclear family ruined. They just do. They want to see it ruined. They want to see it ugly. They
Well,
want to.
let me tell you what I think about that. Okay, the nuclear family is actually a fabrication.
What do you mean?
All right. Ancient people understood that in order to continue, like tribes, whatever, there were relationships, and very often a man in this particular relationship would have more than one sex partner. Okay. I mean, it's
There
safe
weren't that many
to
people
say,
at the time either. There weren't
huh?
that many people at the time.
Right. But they had to breed and populate, right?
Yeah.
How else you going to do that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody invents another way, that's something else. But marriage, the idea of a wedding, a union between a man and a woman is actually not in every culture,
Right.
and not always has been. Okay. That came about during a time in society when it became very necessary for people to survive and raise a family. Used to be the term "it takes a village."
Hmm.
Everybody was kind of related to each other. You know what I mean? It was one of those bits. They were all kind of family members. Um, but the nuclear family came about when, especially in Western society, when the idea of harvesting food, the hunter gatherer mentality, which is just basically animal nature. Okay. Even in animal kingdom, one animal, usually the male, goes out and hunts food and brings it back to females and the cubs, the babies. All right. That's sort of the structure of things. But human culture, human nature does not always work that way.
Well, and that's understood. But one of the things about we get with the nuclear family, one of the things that, and it's a lot of it is needed. Is like you can just go. Like I said, one of the things that difference is that you can get like neighborhoods, like just neighbor go around. I mean, the place I live right now. You know what I'm saying? Like in the places I live in, the areas I live right now, you can just tell the difference where I mean you see the families around everything like that. A lot of society does need it because otherwise there isn't anything that no one is being held accountable. You need maybe a father, a mother, maybe your brothers, your sisters, your everything. You need an accountability to everything. You just can't be left to be by yourself, figure it out, because then I'll just say it, Antifa. You get these people, yeah, everybody, it's like, oh, we're our own family, and then you destroy everything. And it's like you get this idea destruction is necessary.
You
When
mean,
you
in other words, the idea of joining a cult.
right.
Antifa is nothing but a cult.
Yes.
Okay. And it's a cult because,
They don't
like
have a family. A
most
lot of them don't have a
cults,
family.
they prey on the weakness, okay, the neediness of certain people. Look at the Manson family. Good God. They were
Yeah.
the most notorious cult in the United States.
Yep.
But they do that. I mean, these religiosity nuts, same thing. They're preying on someone's desire to belong to something, a
And
group.
see, a lot and people with a family that's close usually sometimes it's now it's not always true. Some people that just had a normal. I mean, we talked about Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah, it was basically he even said it himself. It was basically normal life. Some people are just crazy, but for the most part, when you've got yourself a family that's close, that people that hold you accountable, friends, family, a nuclear structure, and everything like that. I'm like I said, I have now lived in the last 3 or 4 months between the almost I mean, mind you, the neighborhood I was in was fine, but just driving around the areas that I did was a disaster. No
Yeah,
grocery stores, all
yeah.
fast food, all everything, just like it was just every when you live into a place where it's nothing but fast food, that means you're living for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any of that kind of stuff. It's a disaster. They live around disasters. They're expecting the worst at all times. And then you come into an area that I live right now, and it's quiet, it's peaceful, it's all that. And it's like these are people that have had families for generations. And it's like there's a difference.
There
And
is a stronger sense of self,
yeah,
okay, when there's been a strong family unit.
right.
Okay, but I agree that these cults and these fringe groups, political or otherwise, really attract very disturbed, needy people, and that's
Yeah.
how they convince them to do the things that they do, and it just
Hmm.
in the name of whatever. But not everybody. Why do you think the divorce rate is so high, though, honey? The nuclear family. Well, one, if families could hold together on their own. Now, again, prior to the 1960s, or at least the 1970s, divorces were incredibly difficult to happen because women were not allowed to file for them.
Hmm.
Okay. Or the husbands could decline them. You know, that the whole joke about going to Reno, Nevada, that's where women could file for a divorce.
Yeah.
And back in the, old days. Prior to that, no, generally not. But that's practically enslavement.
Hmm.
All right. And that's wrong. Marriage should be from within here. It's the desire to want to work together to make something, but you also have to get ulterior motives.
Yeah.
There are
The
people who marry just for money.
yeah.
And then once that money's gone, they're out the door. And I've known men to get suckered in by women who just want their wallets.
Yep. Yep. And
And I've
divorces
seen women who do it too.
and see there's a lot of things also too. I mean, there's a
And then there are
quarter.
men who only want a woman at home cooking and cleaning. They just want to live in maid.
And then there's a thing also. I'll bring the one part of sports up on this part. There's a quarterback in football who's about to get a divorce. He's played he has played 25 years now. Literally 23 years now. He's played 23 years. He was saying, I'm going to divorce, I'm going to get out now, I'm done, blah, blah, blah. He said that. And then all of a sudden he changed his mind because he is addicted to competition. I'm going to talk about this for one of my shows also. He's addicted to competition. There are people there that way, and he could get himself hurt because it's football. You know what I mean? He's 45 years old. He's 45 years old. He's acting like a child. And there are those things like at some point you got to learn to grow up yourself. So there's understood on that. But there's another thing with divorces that happen too. We've lost the ability, like I said, it's another thing with conversation, like you and I are talking right now. They've lost the ability to converse with each other and communicate completely. They give up easy.
And two, I understand this from a woman's point of view. Very often, the divorce occurs because one, they weren't honest with each other to begin with about what they wanted.
Yeah.
A lot of people just go into a marriage going in whatever. And I've
Yep.
seen more women who are running the show, and after a while, they get tired of doing all the work.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because what they married was a fucking useless adolescent.
And I'll tell you this, I'm going to bring this part and then we'll go to our final topic. I wanted to bring this. Growing up in in a little small town like I did, my mom and dad thought the world of each other. Okay, so I'm just bringing that part right now. I mean, mom still misses him to this day.
Sure.
18 years apart, it just clicked. But I can say this, man's man. It was the law. I mean, the word, everything like that. And mind you, they worked together though. But here's the thing about it. It was there's just different reasons why it worked or whatever. But the biggest thing about it is my mom has said this herself. He was a man. He took charge. He took a lot of things. There's a lot of situations where a woman's taken complete charge and 10, 15 years later, the man still doesn't know what he's doing.
Do you know why? Your father, kind of like mine, did not grow up under the umbrella of feminism.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
They were taught to be men because that's how they were raised.
Yep.
So many boys now are not raised with an adequate father figure in their lives. They have the weekend dad who basically shows up, plays games, orders pizza, and then goes. That's all they see happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Mom is working. Mom is cooking. Mom is shopping for their clothes. Mom is keeping the electricity on. Mom's making the beds. She's doing all the damn work. So what is a young man, teenager, boy supposed to think? Where's his example of how to do things?
Yep.
It ain't there. It's in fucking ass video games and these stupid ass TV shows.
Right.
And that's it.
Well, and it's like, and you think about this for a second, you think about, here's the thing. Remember Family Ties?
Oh, yeah.
Remember Family Ties? That was a liberal family with a conservative kid. But it's like, the thing is, and I'll bring this little thing, I've got another Ed O'Neill deal. Ed O'Neill was supposed to be trying to get Stephen Keaton, and it's like, how the hell are you going to get a guy with his physique to make it Stephen Keaton to that kind of level? And it's like Michael Gross is perfect for it, and it's like because he looked it. He made beards wimpy. but the biggest thing is, it's like they started putting those things on where these men are so weak and they're so afraid and they're so eggshelled. And that's what a generation has seen.
Michael Gross wasn't exactly that. The Family Ties, listen, there were moments. He was that liberal, bleeding heart kind of a guy, but he took charge when he had to. Okay? There were some episodes where he did.
Yeah, but you get to that part, but I'm like, all I could think about is Ed O'Neill saying I was gonna go for Stephen Keaton. I'm like, how? Were you gonna lose 50 pounds?
What do you mean Stephen Keaton? Who was that?
Ed O'Neill almost had Stephen Keaton. Almost. Ed O'Neill did. Yeah, on Family Ties. I'm like, I would have thought that.
That was the character's name.
No, Stephen. No, Ed O'Neill would have been Ed O'Neill instead of Michael Gross would have been Stephen Keaton.
Okay, Michael P. Keaton. That was Michael J. Fox.
No,
that's Stephen Keaton. Alex Keaton. Yeah. That was Michael J. Fox.
Stephen Keaton was the dad. He would have. Ed O'Neill would have been that instead. He would have been. Ed O'Neill would have been that.
Yeah, I don't see him as that. I don't really see him as that either.
No, I don't think
see Meredith Baxter with him. I don't.
No, not at all. And I don't see him playing a full-fledged liberal. It doesn't fit. He doesn't have the look.
No.
But it's like I feel like that they had those, and you're talking about those. But I feel like the whole generations have watched shows after countless shows where the mom has to save the day from the idiot, and they see that too, and that's media.
Right. That's the writers. Okay.
Yeah.
But you got to remember that the damn feminists got on their high horses and said, if you're going to keep writing women as weak and dependent on men, then you're anti-woman, you're misogynist. But the writers had to deal with that shit for years.
Mm-hmm. Well, and The thing is, there's feminists and there's feminists and there's feminazi.
Oh, well, I know that.
Yeah, it's like feminist wants the strength of a woman to get stronger and have an even hand. That's just the thing. Feminazi flat out wants to just deplete the man. He wants to deplete the testosterone of the world. And there's a big difference.
Well, unfortunately, that has become a thing, and for the last 3 generations, that's what's been there. And one of the reasons why I'm still single, all right, I
Mm-hmm.
have to say, to be honest with you, I'm a feminist,
You
but I
are.
can't stand a wuss.
Yeah.
I hate a jerk and I hate a wuss.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, whatever. And this is regardless of who you are, how you grew up, where you grew up,
Yeah.
but I don't know what it's going to take anymore. I have no solution to that. I mean, it's just stupidity is all around us, and it's propagated by the media. It's propagated by television and a lot of it film. I don't know. I don't know what is going to be the answer, if any. I have no idea. Churches aren't going to help. Religion is not helping because they're taking religion the wrong ass way.
Yeah.
Okay. Reverting us back to the 19th century and taking away women's rights is not going to fix it.
And
Okay,
see,
it won't.
for you
It
to
won't.
here's the thing, you will have to, and we're gonna get our final topic. We will do that, so we're gonna go a little over 2. But this is the thing before we go on to it. The biggest deal with something like this with churches, it's the fact that for you to bring that conversation, you can tell that to me and I'll listen to you. I'll hear your thing. You know what I'm saying? But for you to get this to where it comes back to something, you got to talk to other women too. Because there's other women that truly believe that whole thing. It's the whole idea with your number one subject. You know what I'm talking about, that I
Mhm.
won't get into.
Right.
And it's like, you got to talk to them, because talking to men, you either get an echo chamber or you get an echo chamber, or you just get the thing. Oh no, but either way, you don't need men. We don't need to be talking about abortion. I'll just say that we don't need to. This is going to be a woman versus woman thing. And men have about 70 different other deals that they can talk about. They have
Well,
70
let
other
me tell
issues.
you something. An article I sent you earlier, a link. There are a greater number of younger women now leaning toward liberalism
Yep.
than has been in 20 years.
Yep.
Okay. The 18 to 30, that age group is leaning more and more left, a little bit more so, largely because of, the abortion issues and some of it LGBTQ issues, other things, social issues. There is a greater percentage, which I'm happy to see. Okay. It means they're starting to think now. All right. This doesn't mean kick men to the curb. Okay. I'm sorry. It does not mean that. It does
Yeah.
not mean that. Okay, people. It means understand more of what is going on,
Yeah.
understand more of what's at stake, what it means to you, rather than just listening to some rote thing that you may or may not have heard your whole life or whatever. Just start to think. That's all. I mean, maybe you don't agree. Maybe you won't agree. Maybe you're going to go back and say, no, look, I've been there and I've thought about it and I've been around and I believe what I have always done. But that's fine if you come to that conclusion. But my whole thing is just consider what else is out there. And now finally, I'm hoping. The problem is younger people aren't voting the way older people are.
Well, and that's true. And you got to realize, let me say
It
this.
doesn't matter what you think, but if you're not voting there, you're not voting in those candidates, you're not going to get your needs met or your wants.
And the thing is, and that's the thing, the men will vote. That is the thing, regardless.
I know they will.
Yeah. And it's like, and the biggest thing, and I'm gonna bring this to you here, this situation. It's the idea of the small town. The small town thing also, big deal. It's the fact that you can talk about this, but a lot of the women that are going liberal live in the big city. They live in the big cities and stuff like that. They are not
Suburbia in the big city, yes.
They are not changing a thing in these. And I'm telling you, it's like, I know how different the small town thought process is. I really do. Because it's like, I will see some star kids in whatever they're doing, whether it's academic, sports, whatever, and you will look at their next college choice, and it is probably 70 miles away, maybe. It is maybe the community college. It is maybe, and then they stay back, and then they're in the small. It is the same thing. So, it's small town mindset, such a different deal.
Do you know why? It's because they're not around anyone who's different than them.
Mm-hmm.
They're around the same people they've always known for generations, the same families, the same school kids, the same type of person. You're not going to see, I mean, yeah, someone LGBTQ may be in there, but they're not going to be out and proud. Not like
Right.
they can be if they're in a city. Okay.
Yeah.
They're going to be scared to be out and proud. They're going to get the shit kicked out of them by the local bullies.
Yeah.
Okay. Usually. But
Yeah.
smaller towns are insular and therefore very naive and just not well traveled or experienced. Not like someone who's lived in. After a while, you get sick of the city. All right, I'm getting that way myself. Okay,
Right.
There was a time when I craved it. I had really loved being around, diversity, which I don't care anything about. I was fine, whatever. I'm getting tired of loud noises. I'm getting tired of rude people. I'm getting tired of traffic idiots. Okay,
Yeah.
but that's a whole different aspect. But we're talking about being exposed to different kinds of people who may be different than you.
Yep.
All right, who
Yep.
may have come up different, who maybe have come from a different culture. Maybe they came from a different town. Maybe they're from the Northeast and not the Midwest or the South. All right. You do have that exposure and you do have differences. And
less stupidity. Let's just be truthful. And when you get to the thing, no. But here's what I mean by this.
No matter where you are.
I mean, when you get into an echo chamber and you're around the same people all the time, there's going to be a certain level of stupidity on it because you're not, or ignorance. We could put ignorance. But
yeah, that's
one of the biggest things I can bring with a situation with it is that we can bring this up right now, and it was the stupidity. We brought up big cities. You know what that was?
What?
Modeling. Now we can go into that part here. There's a reason I want to tell you this, okay? I wanted to tell you this. The reason I said the stupidity in the idea of modeling, it isn't that modeling's stupid. You've modeled. We have Barefoot Bell, our good friend, our mutual friend, modeled. There's different modeling. I'm not calling modeling stupid. My main reason I was talking about it is because we cannot get a level of common sense in this world of modeling. It's like we had to have for the longest time pencil thin, ridiculous, and you can't eat more than a carrot.
Well,
now we are getting fat is beautiful. No, it's not.
All right. What believe you are referring to is fashion modeling. Okay.
Yes.
Clothes and accessories. All right.
Yes.
Expensive handbags by Michael Kors and Chanel. And you see these models who are 16 years old wearing, $3,000 worth of clothes and jewelry. And they're just, I don't have a pencil right here, but they're pencil thin. Okay.
Yes.
That's because they're still in the middle of growth spurts. They're almost 6 feet tall and 16. They're still growing. So they are very, very thin. Okay. And they're probably not snacking on McDonald's hamburgers every day. They probably
or at all.
Very, very regimented diet.
Yeah.
All right. And to the point where some of them become anorexic, which is sad. And some of them get sick and die, which is the industry they've been fighting this. These larger, what you call fat, all right, big. Modeling should be a spectrum, just like a neurodivergence, a spectrum of types. Okay, Asians, Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, Laotian, whatever, all that whole Pacific Islander tend to be very small people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get much taller than about 5'4" or 5.
Sure.
That's as tall as they get.
Yep.
All right. But there are models, beautiful Asian women that are just flawless skin, beautiful hair, nice features. They photograph beautifully. And there's no reason in the world why they can't be legit models who are not 5'10".
Yeah.
African Americans, both. There are very thin, tall Iman. She's a very famous, African American model. She's Ethiopian, but still is from Africa.
Sure.
And then there are the tribal cultures that are further south of that Ethiopia, and that are different tribes and they're different physiques. They tend to be larger, rounder, just naturally. Okay, I mean, all you got to do is look at pictures of tribal women in those cultures. That's where they're from. That's where their ancestry is, and that's where they are built. And same thing. But just because you're large doesn't mean you can't be well proportioned, in shape, pretty. Same with Caucasians. It's the same deal. Some Caucasians are 5'10", some are 5'2", like me. There should be a spectrum of modeling types. Not all one, not all the other. But unfortunately, our culture tends to embrace extremes.
Yeah.
One thing I'm happy to see is Victoria's Secret and Abercrombie and Fitch in their stores displayed, the photos of models with the clothes. Some are larger and plus sized, some are leaner.
Yep.
I mean, that's a nice spectrum, and that's the way it should be.
Well, this is the way I always say with the. This is the thing I always say with people with our with the modeling. People were talking about the will Victoria's Secret move blah 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 blah. You want to know what I say about that? I
What?
say, where's the money? How's the money? Are you making money?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Those
That is the
big
number one.
girls, honey, there's more larger women. There's more women sizes 6 and up, okay, than sizes 4 and smaller.
No, I get that. I meant
That's gonna
any
sell, baby doll. That's gonna
with
sell.
no. This is what I meant by it. Will there be a change? Will there be I mean, will there be money when there's a change? Is there money in it? Like Billy Eichner's movie, The Bros. That thing is get mauled at the box office, murdered. It is, and then he is bitching up a storm because he's calling everybody homophobic. No, it is the it is it's a you're trying to make a gay rom com and you're trying to make something normalized by itself, and gays don't even like it. It means it's a bad movie because gays aren't going to it either. It made 5 million last weekend. It's terrible, and it's like the gays hate it. Gays aren't going to it, and it's like that's a thing you have to make out of something like this. If there's a change, is it making money? That's all that matters.
Well, I'm
No,
sorry.
no, no. I'm talking about if it's going to work. If it's going to work, I mean, that means if it keeps going.
Change is sometimes burst in like a kind of like marches like in like a lion. Sometimes it's not going to make money right away. Okay, but I think at some point where you're talking about appealing to you're talking about selling clothes to a demographic that tends to be a certain physique. Okay, I used to go into some of these stores, like my mom and I used to comment on this. We'd watch these shows. We'd see, like, who in the world is ever going to buy that? It's like this expensive thing of clothes that doesn't look like it has any kind of rhyme or reason to it. Like, who's going to spend that money to buy that to wear it? And these Twiggy type, and Twiggy was a little skinny girl from the 60s. And but some people are that lean. But I'm wondering, I go into the shops and I don't see anything but what sells is like average to larger than average.
Yeah.
Okay. That is the bulk of our society of women. Okay. I can speak for men, women who are buying clothes.
And we see
Jeans,
women,
dresses, bras, panties,
mm-hmm.
Jackets, pantsuits.
Yep.
Women who are average to larger than average.
Yep.
Very skinny,
And women,
leaner than average to lean, skinny, sizes 0 and all that. That's like a very small percentage these days.
Well, see, here's the thing: the women are the main they're the main breadwinner, not breadwinner as far as the deal, but they're the main people that open the wallet. They are the ones that people are looking for now. I mean, whether it's on movies, whether it's on everything, there are women ads all the time because they are the ones spending the money. They are the wallet. They are looking at the billfold, not the wallet. If you get my point, they are looking at this, and that's the point of everything. But why? But that's why I ask, why do we have to do extremes all the time? And Why do we have to do extremes when extremes by themselves really don't make? I'm bringing up money because there's the capitalist in me. But extremes don't necessarily always make the money. They make a quick shot and they lose.
It's extremes are a shock value selling point. It's a circus mentality. It's like, kind of a freak kind of a thing. Moderation, for some reason, does not sell. I wish it did. Well, I mean, I can deal with moderation or a fair, because when you talk about representation, the extremes makes, I don't even know why. It's a spectacle. I mean, basically, when you used to look at Twiggy, she was an exception. But what happened was you had a generation of women starving themselves, becoming anorexic and bulimic so they could look like her. She's not average.
Yeah.
Okay. Twiggy,
Marilyn Monroe was really average.
Marilyn Monroe was average, very much so.
Yeah.
And Twiggy was not. But what happened was there's, like I said, a generation or two of women were going around, not eating, starving, puking themselves, dying, killing themselves, trying to achieve what she was naturally. But she was a freak.
Yeah.
She was a freak. All
Yeah.
right. And then, the fashion industry grabbed her because she had this little wafy, childlike appearance about her. She's like 5'9" or whatever. And, then trying to design these clothes that would not fit an average woman, at least not very well.
Yeah.
Or an average woman would look ridiculous wearing them.
Yep.
And that would happen for a long time, even throughout the 70s. But finally, throughout the 80s, there was a shift in more fuller figured women, models like Cindy Crawford, that she was a nice figure, nice boobs, nice everything. And there was a trend there, which it came back in the other direction. And then heroin chic took over again back in the 90s.
Heroin chic, cute.
Heroin chic, just the Kate Moss with her, these dark circles under her eyes and gaunt cheeks, and she's her skinny, bony arms, and she still looks that way to this day. I mentioned that in my article to you, and it was, they're going for that look again, which I still think is just doesn't need to happen. But I personally am too old to give a shit. It's these younger ones that are being affected by it. Okay, Gen Z and that generation, they're the ones who are going to be affected by it.
Well,
Teenagers.
what I do every day is when I say money, I don't mean that money should be the world. I think it should be a means to an end, not your friend. I always say this. But when I say money, I read like 3 or 4 different emails every day of business things and stuff like that. And then so when I see the amount of money that Lizzo makes and stuff, it's working. As stupid as it sounds, it's working. It's like, and you see, and people didn't think of it first with Tesla. You know what I'm saying? It's working. Tesla's making its money, and it's like it's getting there. When I say by money, I mean we cannot make echo chambers to ourselves. This is stupid. This is stupid. This is stupid. We can't be the echo chamber. We have to see who is buying.
Well, let me tell you, Lady Gaga is making money also, and she is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Very talented. Showbiz. She's flamboyant, gets attention. She can do things. She stays in shape, though. Holy mother of God, does she ever? She's hot. Just hot. I'm a female, and I'm going, she's fucking hot.
Mm-hmm.
Talented. Actor, singer, whatever. Businesswoman, all the above. And she's making money too, okay? So you have your Lizzos and you have your Lady Gagas.
Yeah. Yep.
You have your Justin Biebers, and then you also, I'm trying to think of a male who would be in the talent range of, somebody more, I don't know who is these days. I don't keep up too much with pop culture. I don't, because doesn't speak to me anymore. I've moved beyond that phase in life. All right.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there is a group of male bands, something that are making money that are very, 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 very good.
Yep.
Not stupid, not ridiculous, not coming off like duh.
Yeah.
All right. It's out there.
Yeah. And something, we at 2:13, we probably went a little over, but I enjoyed this tonight so much. This was a great episode. Yes. And this is what I was talking about with conversation. It's like, whether it's my shows on Sideline or this independent one we have here, I love the idea that we can get a real conversation going. And once we get bigger, I hope we get more. That I hope we get the haters, if you will. I hope we do. And then we can show that we ignore the mob. There is
Oh
no
yeah.
there's no apologies. There none of my shows I want to be on. I don't want apologies because the ones that if we have to apologize, it means we really did something wrong. If we're apologizing for something that is based off of an opinion, then you are killing real life, no nonsense First Amendment. You're really killing it with just freedom of speech.
Correct.
You're killing it. That guess what? Freedom of speech is conservative. Freedom of speech is liberal. And this is what the world's got to start understanding. It is both sides have a point, both sides everything. We get the Constitution made the idea that a liberal and conservative they need to work together to get a consensus to get bills going. And it's like, guess what? Neither were doing this right now. There's so many 51-49s, 50-50s. Gotta tie it. Gotta break a tie. We got so much of that. We need to make the understanding that there's a consensus.
Well, if more of us like you and I are out there doing this, and Bill Maher, we've talked
Yep.
about him, and more of them that are out there trying to do this, or at least endeavoring to. And also, you got to realize the media is not your friend.
Nope.
They're going to take this 2 hour long meeting that thing we had here, take snippets of what we say and fashion this. Oh, so and so said Lizzo was stupid. No, he didn't.
Nope.
You didn't
Nope.
say she was stupid.
Nope.
I didn't say she was stupid. I
Nope.
said that the way she acts on stage and appeals to certain demographics is stupid.
It's stupid.
Relying on stupidity to make money or to attract a crowd or whatever is not the same thing as saying that person is stupid.
Nope.
For the record, when it comes down to pure dollars and cents, what she's doing is very smart.
Yeah.
But what that is very smart. But unfortunately, it's appealing to stupid.
Yeah. And it does. And it's like that's the whole thing I want to be able to start seeing. It's like I want to start seeing it's like because by itself you got to remember the what happens when in the politics when someone tries to be common sense. That's Joe Manchin right now in West Virginia. What happens when someone try? And I'm going to say Adam Kinzinger. Yeah, Adam Kinzinger. I'm not a fan of Adam Kinzinger, partially because he's kind of an ass, but he did try, and then Mitt Romney. But you know something? They tried to be common sense out of the whole thing with the Republican side. And I'm not bringing up Liz Cheney, but I'm saying when you get that, well, when you get there, it is completely shot out of the moon because now you get AOC and now you get MTG.
Yep.
You get that, and then you get there, you get stupidity.
I have been told, and this is just because it's the real thing. It's true in this world as well as when I used to go out there and hunt. Well, I'll wrap it up with this. When you're in a business of, say, like marketing, and my portfolio with your design work and your samples and all that, they taught us in school that your portfolio is only as strong as your weakest link.
Right.
Your party is only as strong as your weakest candidate.
Yeah.
And right now, AOC and Marjorie Taylor Greene are two sides of the same coin.
Yep. They're good. They
and
play to the stupid.
Neither one are all that good.
Well,
either party.
Well, it's like both of them played to the stupid, and it's just, I mean, and really, we're going to keep doing this because guess what? They're both going to win. They're both going to win their districts. Huh?
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, they're both going to win their districts. Remember, like I said to you about the House, you get a district, you get a place that's strong, you can keep it forever. And it's like they're going to win their districts, and it's like you can't when you have people in a specific district that you can get there. Okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene probably found the stupidest people. So AOC found a cultured area. I mean, a lot of the cultured area is very, very hardworking, but they're not trying to pay attention to politics. So AOC will say anything stupid, get it there. They're just going to vote for her. It's just true. And
Oh, well,
it is what it is. And with that, we can say we had a wonderful night. We'll be back to an hour next week, but it was a tremendous time.
awesome. Thank you.
Dad, you have a great night, and we will keep on going. We're going to keep improving. Take
Definitely.
care.
For sure. Good
Take
night.
care. Night night.